Line rushing through me, I knew this was only the beginning. Because the HOA wasn't about to let their control slip away without a fight, and I wasn't about to back down. Owning the lake felt like victory. For a few days, I walked around the neighborhood with a spring in my step. Neighbors whispered, some cheering me on quietly, others avoiding me like I had just painted a target on my back. But it didn't take long for the HOA to show their claws. The first strike came in the form of a letter taped to my door. According to them, my mailbox wasn't painted the approved shade of black. Then came another letter. My fence, apparently, was 2 inches too tall by HOA standards. Then another. My dog's barking was deemed excessive, even though I didn't even own a dog. It was harassment, plain and simple. I stormed over to Rick's house, waving the papers in the air. "They're throwing everything at me," I said, pacing on his porch. Rick frowned. "They're trying to bury you in fines until you give up." "That's what they do. They've done it before." "Well, they picked the wrong person this time," I snapped. A week later, I came home to find a tow truck hooking up my pickup. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" I shouted, running across the driveway. The driver shrugged. "Show request. Said you were parked illegally on community property." "This is my driveway!" I yelled. It took me 2 hours and a lot of heated phone calls to get my truck back. By then, I was shaking with anger. That night, I sat on my porch staring at the lake again. Except this time, instead of calm, I felt fury boiling in my chest. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to hit them where it hurt. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up early. The room was buzzing with tension the moment I walked in. The president adjusted his glasses and tried to look calm. "We've received multiple complaints regarding your behavior and non-compliance with HOA guidelines. If this continues, we may have no choice but to place a lien on your property." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "And I've received multiple complaints from neighbors about your harassment and abuse of power. Funny thing is, I actually own something you don't." I gestured toward the window where the lake shimmered in the evening light. "Every day, I'm getting more calls from neighbors who are fed up with your nonsense. They're tired of the fines, the nitpicking, the control. And you know what? They've started asking me one question." The board members exchanged nervous glances. "The question is," I continued, "what would happen if someone else started their own HOA? Or better yet, if this neighborhood didn't have one at all?" Gasps spread across the room. Marlene slammed her hand on the table. "You can't threaten us like that. The HOA is legally binding." I smiled coldly. "So is property ownership. And last I checked, this lake is mine, which means your common area just shrank a whole lot smaller." After the meeting, several neighbors came up to me in hushed tones. "Good for you," one said. "We're sick of them too." The real breaking point came a few weeks later. I was fishing on the dock, enjoying the sunset, when a security guard in a golf cart pulled up. He worked for the HOA, wearing their badge proudly on his chest. "Sir, you're not allowed to fish here," he barked. I didn't even look up. "Actually, I am. I own this lake." He frowned. "The HOA board gave me strict instructions. No fishing allowed." Slowly, I reeled in my line, stood up, and pulled a folded piece of paper from my back pocket. The deed. "You see this?" I held it up to his face. "This says otherwise. Now, unless you want to get arrested for trespassing, I suggest you turn that cart around." The guard hesitated, muttered something under his breath, and drove off. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. But it wasn't over. I knew the board wasn't going to back down. If anything, they'd push harder. And that's when I decided, if they wanted war, I was going to give them war. I called a lawyer the next day. "Can I ban the HOA from using my lake?" I asked. The lawyer chuckled. "It's your property. You can set the rules as long as they don't violate public law. If they want access, they'll have to come through you." That was all I needed to hear. That night, I typed up a notice and mailed it to every household in Lakeside Estates. Effective immediately, the lake is private property. All HOA members and residents are banned from using it without permission. Trespassers will be prosecuted. When those letters landed in mailboxes, the neighborhood exploded. Some cheered. Some cursed my name. And the HOA? They called an emergency meeting. I didn't go to that one. Instead, I sat on my porch with a cold drink in my hand, watching the lake glimmer in the fading light. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control. But deep down, I knew this was only the calm before the storm. The morning after I sent out the lake ban notice, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Some neighbors called to thank me, saying they were glad someone was finally standing up to the HOA. Others cursed me out, angry that they couldn't use their lake anymore. By the end of the week, the HOA had plastered flyers all over the neighborhood, declaring my ban invalid and urging residents to stand united against selfish property hoarding. Selfish? That was rich, coming from people who had fined me for breathing the wrong way. The real showdown came one Saturday afternoon. I was down at the dock, fishing rod in hand, enjoying the peace I had fought so hard for, when I noticed a group of people approaching. At the front was Marlene, her ever-present clipboard clutched like a weapon. Behind her were half a dozen board members and even a few neighbors. "Mr. Thompson," she barked, "you are in violation of HOA bylaws and community standards. Your so-called ban on residents is unlawful and will not be recognized." I calmly reeled in my line, stood up, and faced them. "You don't get it, do you? The bylaws don't matter here. This lake isn't yours. It's mine. I own it. The county records prove it. The deed proves it. You have no power here." Marlene's face turned red. "You can't deny the community access to its natural resources. That's tyranny." I laughed bitterly. Tyranny? That's funny. Where was that concern when you fined people for Christmas lights? Or for mailboxes being the wrong shade of black? Where was your compassion when you towed my truck from my own driveway? No, Marlene, tyranny is your specialty. Me? I'm just defending what's mine, the crowd murmured. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uneasy. One of the board members stepped forward. "If you don't comply, we'll take you to court. We'll drain your finances with legal fees until you regret ever buying this lake." I locked eyes with him. "Try me." Sure enough, the HOA filed a lawsuit within weeks. The claim? That I was unlawfully restricting access to what they called a community resource. We went to court. I'll never forget the look on Marlene's face when my lawyer dropped the deed on the judge's bench. The judge skimmed the document, raised an eyebrow, and asked the HOA attorney, "If the plaintiff owns the property outright, what grounds do you actually have here?" The HOA lawyer stammered, shuffling papers. "Well, Your Honor, the bylaws..." The judge cut him off. "Bylaws don't override property ownership. Case dismissed. Bang. Gavel down." Just like that. I had won. When the verdict came down, I walked out of the courthouse with my head high. Neighbors clapped me on the back, some cheering, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Marlene stormed past me, muttering under her breath. The president of the HOA wouldn't even look at me. That weekend, I installed a brand new gate across the lake entrance. A big, bold sign hung on it. "Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted." The HOA fumed. Residents complained. But there was nothing they could do. I had the law on my side. For weeks, the lake sat quiet. No kids spowl.